Hi, welcome back to Anything Goes Fishing. Today we're going to be talking about how to make your own fluorocarbon and steel leaders for pike and musky, as well as the tools and parts you will need to do so. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what you're going to need. So I like to use for pike and musky for my fluorocarbons leader, I like to use a 100-pound test. And for my steel, I like to use 30 to 45. I'm out of 45, so today we're going to be using 30. Another need is a good set of crimps. I bought these with a kit that came with fishing crimps. Now this kit came with all these different crimps. The only ones I use are these, the double barrel ones. You can see there's the two holes there. I use those for both my leaders. And then two other important things I'd say you need are barrel swivels and clips. So these are the clips I use for my musky and pike leaders, or my musky leaders I should say, and all my fluorocarbon. And then these are the barrel swivels. And then as well as I bought some smaller clips and an assorted pack of swivels for my steel leaders, as they are a little smaller. And I can also use these for ice fishing, so it's just a handy thing to have around. So those are the things I would say you need. Another thing I would say if you want to have would be a good pair of split ring pliers. They make other ones than this. These I just got at one of my local shops. They weren't too expensive, but they work great. They got the split ring on the nose and some good live bait treble hooks. If you want to make quick strike rigs or anything for live bait with your leaders, which I do make quick strike rigs, which I will talk about in another video. Alright, so we'll start with, since I got these out, we'll start with a fluorocarbon leader. So one thing I forgot to mention, and I forgot to grab, is you need a lighter. I would say you need a lighter, just a normal barbecue lighter, to make fluorocarbon leaders. I'll show you when we get to that step, but let's just get started first. So what you're going to do here is just get your, however long you want it. You can make them as long as you want. For instance, I bought a swim bait that was through wire and it came with a steel leader, and I put a fluorocarbon on it just because I thought it would be a little bit more effective than the steel for the perch swim bait anyways. Alright, so you grab one of your crimps, which I should have grabbed two. So grab all your materials. So you got your two crimps, and so what you do first is, it doesn't matter what end you start at. You see, you're just going to slide the crimp onto your line. And then you're going to slide we'll start with the barrel end. Slide your barrel swivel on. Oh, can't see it. There you go. And then all you're going to want to do is just get this started. And then what I do, what I do is I make the tag end a little bit longer than it needs to be. And then I pull on the non-tag end line to make the loop smaller. And I just kind of eyeball the size of the loop. I've done a few of these that I just kind of know how big I like it. That looks to be about right. Then what you do is you take your crimps and you line it up. And my dad always said to me, for when you're crimping, you want to start, I don't know if you'll be able to see this on camera, but you want to be slightly, there we go. You want to have your crimp slid just under, so there's a bit of fluorocarbon in here, so you just get the end. And you get to the end of them, give them a good squeeze, and then what you do is you jump to the complete same spot, but on the complete opposite end, and you just slide the crimp in the tool, like just slightly loosen it. Same thing, crimp it, and then go to the middle and crimp it. I always just give it a few, move it around and give it a couple quick squeezes just to make sure it's even. Then you have a crimp. So then what you do is you take this end, get your tag end out of the way, and you cut it to your desired length, but you're still gonna cut it a little longer, and you'll see why here in a sec. So you take, now it's cut a little bit long, you take your lighter, turn on your lighter, and make sure you're safe doing this. Don't accidentally light your fingers on fire or your house on fire or something. And you just melt the top. Blow on it to get it to cool. I may have done this one a little bit long, but that's okay, it'll still work. You can always, I left it long enough that I could probably cut it and do that again. But I always recommend melting just the end of your tag, mainly because if your crimp does fail and your line does slide, it's not going to get past that melted bit, and it doesn't really affect the leader in any way that I've found so far. So then you just repeat the same process for the other end. So I'll skip that because it's the same process. We'll talk about the steel leaders. So again, pull out your desired length for steel leader. I normally do shorter steel leaders than I do my fluorocarbon. Again, I just eyeball all my measurements. And then you grab your materials out. So I use the same crimps actually, but one thing I do differently, or like to do differently if I can, with my steel leaders is I tie with my fly tying thread and super glue. I wrap over the crimp, which I'll show you what I mean in a sec. But first, let's just talk about. So what you're gonna do is you take your crimp, just put it over top of your wire, put your swivel over. And it's just the same thing. Started, and I just push right from here to make my eyelet size on the steel leader. I always make it smaller because once you crimp the steel, which you do the same process as fluorocarbon for crimping it, I find it always ends up bigger. So I always do it a little bit bigger. So give it a good crimp. Sure everything's looking good. So then what I'll do is I don't trim this at all. I'll leave that super long. And what I'll do is I'll take my fly tying thread and I'll cover from the eye all the way, and I'll wrap just past to about there with silk thread, which I'll show you I have right here. With like a silk thread. It's just a thicker, and it looks nice. It matches the wire really well, like the color of the wire. So I wrap this around it, and then I give it enough super glue that it's gonna harden up nice and not go anywhere, but not so much that it gets like a white coating from the super glue drying on top. But yeah, that's essentially how I make my steel and fluorocarbon leaders for pike and musky. I did only show you how to do the one end, but it's the same process for the other end. You just put a clip on the other end instead of a swivel. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and always remember, when you're fishing, anything goes.